5, 4, 3, 2.
Let's do this.
This is ProWrestling UnCut. With your host, Cole Dawson.
Biggest icon in wrestling.
Die Hard is not a Christmas movie.
Let's do this.
Here we go. 5, 4, 3, 2, and we're live.
Oh, ladies and god damn it, Charles.
Leave it. Leave it. Leave this.
Oh, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another exciting episode of Pro Wrestling Uncut. I am your host, Cole Dawson, and with me, as always, DJ Barbecue. Charles, how you doing today, sir?
I'm doing good.
So you are watching election coverage?
No.
Maybe you won't be doing so well if you start watching that. We're not going to get into politics today, but it is election day. We are voting for a great many things, but I think most important is the presidential election that's going on. I'm watching a little bit of that coverage. We won't get into it, but I will just say this for all our listeners out there. It really doesn't matter who wins, guys. The sky won't fall. The world won't collapse. We'll be okay. If your guy doesn't win, there will be a tomorrow. The sun will come up. We will be fine. You don't need to go take to the streets and destroy stuff. You don't need to kill anybody. Just regroup, and in 4 years, we can fix whatever we did today. So,
oh God, that's so good. Oh, we're not going to talk about politics.
Did I give a political leaning anyway? I just said whoever wins will be fine, ladies and gentlemen.
I just got it right.
I didn't get political at all. I didn't give my opinion or state who I voted for. I just said whoever wins, will be okay tomorrow, guys. So please just, stay home and
Backlund.
Be good humans. I did not, but we have some exciting news for the listeners out there, our loyal fan base, the dozens and dozens of you that download and listen to this podcast on a weekly basis. We have a new guest host. Well, not guest, permanent host here. We're going to let Charles take a little bit of a back seat. We got some big ideas. We're going to have some debates and a little more guest booking stuff. Charles will be taking more of a moderator role for those, as these debates can get out of hand and someone's going to have to keep us in check. But our new host, I'm very excited about this. My good friend, long-term buddy, former tag team partner, and one of my favorite humans in this world, Ron Kilbourn. How are you today, sir?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you all for the humble intro and really just, taking the reins and being a guest host on this here shindig. And looking forward to discussing some wrestling, throwing out some opinions, maybe having a little fantasy fun. Who knows? We'll see what happens.
Oh, fantasy fun with Ron is one of my favorite things. There's all kinds of fantasies, like especially looking at the little holes in your stretched earlobes there.
Oh, yeah.
All kinds of fantasies, because as we know, it may be short, but at least it's thin.
Yeah. I mean, my ears just
Dun.
So, we're going to start with a little bit of a get to know you. I'm going to ask you some questions, Ronald. I know we talked a little bit when we did our fantasy booking extravaganza, how I feel, who my influences are. So I'd like to start with what is your first memories of wrestling? What was it that kind of got you hooked? What got you interested in the business and led to being here today?
Well, the first ever wrestling I saw, I was flipping through the channels and there was Superstars. And on my screen is Doink the Clown versus Double J Jeff Jarrett. That's my... And it was right in the middle of Leslie Nielsen trying to find the real Undertaker because we need to take down the Underfaker. And my very first pay-per-view was SummerSlam 1994 because I just had to see the return of the real Undertaker. Because at that point, never saw him. I thought that faker was the Undertaker. I was like, wait, if that's not the real Undertaker, then who's the real Undertaker? That guy's got to be awesome. And my 8-year-old ass was not disappointed. And one of my favorite matches ever. And then I grew up, rewatched it, and realized, oh. And I'm sure we've all been there.
Well, yes, because most of us were Ultimate Warrior marks at one point in our life, so we've all been there. But yeah, it's fun to go back and watch some of the old stuff that we remember one way or the other, stuff that we thought really just sucked. I think there was a WrestleMania you made me go back and watch because I was kind of meh on it, and it was better than I remember, but it still wasn't great. And it's not. I believe it's your favorite WrestleMania of all the times. Where what was it? Kurt Angle and Shawn Michaels specifically was the match you told me I had to go back and watch. So
yeah, that would be WrestleMania 21. We all watched it at your house. It was cute. Candace got to go to that show, which I was super jelly of, considering. And yeah, just from top to bottom, some of my favorite shit. Just as a fan, that was like, I feel like that was like the peak, like 04, 05 was just like engulfed in it. Mind you, we were all like a couple years into starting our own wrestling adventures at the time. So now we're in the thick of it, where we're kind of taking notes on the greats and enjoying our markdom, if you will, and. Yeah, just talked about it. You got Eddie and Ray. You got the very first time the streak was brought up as a storyline, Randy Orton versus Taker. You got even Akibono versus Big Show in the Thong. I was like, that was great. And yeah, that was my favorite WrestleMania. Scout's honor.
Hey, that's okay. As you well know, my favorite is the 17, which is definitely in the discussion. I think 21 as your favorite is an interesting one because there's not a lot of people that mention 21 as a great WrestleMania. It's probably a good one for a while. Like there was that run from 17 to 21, maybe 22, that were all really good, and then there's like a long gap between. Like WrestleMania 30 was the next like really good WrestleMania, and the last few, I will say, the last 5 or so, one was kind of okay, but 4 of the last 5 have been pretty good. So we're getting back there.
Yeah, we're getting back there. Yeah, 21 was just hits home for me, and like you said, it's not really regarded as one of the greats, but. Yeah, I think that's probably why I like it so much. It's my own. I'm the my favorite WrestleMania.
So then you bring up Undertaker was kind of what hooked you there. So who are some of the influences early on in your wrestling fandom that kept you into it, that really got you hooked on the business, that said I'm going to be doing this for a while?
That would definitely be Vader and Bam Bam. Once I saw them, and I was always portly growing up, and when I saw them, I was like, oh, I can do this. But then like once you start paying your dues, and then you really appreciate Bam Bam and Vader, like, oh, I got a lot of work to do. Like those guys are big, but they're still athletes, no matter what they look like. And truth be told, I went and saw a friend of ours, a high school buddy, by the name of Kid Carnage, Tyler Davidson in real life, Jarek Matthews in today's wrestling world, if he's still doing that. And he invited me to an EWF show, and I went, got a real big kick out of it. I even didn't meet you, but I saw and heard you.
Very much so.
Yeah. Kilbourn!
Yes, back when I first started going to independent shows when I was in high school, 16, 17, 18, I was that super fan that was there every show and screaming and yelling and obnoxious and loud. And my voice is big and it very much carries. So that was definitely me. There were probably a few IWC shows where I probably took away from the action at sometimes being such a mark. But then very quickly after that, you learned, oh, if you're going to be in the business, you can't go to shows and cheer and be a mark. You got to be, you got to be one of the boys. You got to wrestle, and you can't be out there cheering and shit. So
bullshit.
Yeah, but that was one of so definitely there. I was gonna say that was the backlot show behind the old school in San Bernardino, right? Yeah.
Yes, I do remember that show. It was the Cubans, Ricky Reyes and Rocky Romero having a tag team, and you're just going at them. Now, little did I know that you probably had a somewhat of a relationship with them at the time, but I just thought you were just a fan, just digging into them.
Oh, I love that. Reyes to this day is one of my favorite wrestlers on the planet, and of all the times, he's in that vein of guy that I like Walter and those guys that are really realistic, Ishii, and they're hard hitting, they're believable, they're realistic. So yeah, I think Reyes main evented my first indie show. Mine was a couple years before that. I think it was probably at the end of my sophomore year. Handsome Johnny Starr, as you know, was a good friend of mine in high school, and he's a local Southern California wrestler, and he had been telling me about the school in Riverside, but then I had classes with TJ Perkins, and he gave me a flyer, actually handed me the flyer and said, hey, I'm going to this show, and convinced me to go. And I took my girlfriend at the time, who was in college, took us, and me and my brother and sister went, and Reyes was the main event on the first show we went to, and hooked me in just instantly. I was hooked by Reyes, and we went to every Friday night show after that. It was fantastic. Charles over here putting on a show, playing with masks, putting up the bio link, eating and whatnot, and not contributing anything to this interview whatsoever. So keep that up, Charles. You're a good man. So then later on, it's funny you should mention big guys like Vader and Bam Bam Bigelow, because I remember a story when we first started training. I kept trying to push guys like Bam Bam and Earthquake and the big guys on you, because obviously at your size, compared to the rest of our wrestlers, you were a giant, and so I kept pushing those guys on you. I remember you just being like, but I want to watch Eddie Guerrero, fuck you.
oh the days of not being smartened up.
Yeah, it's like, I want to do high spots, bro, fuck off.
You see this German I can do, bro?
Yeah. So later on, once you kind of got smarter to the business, was there a kind of a shift in the people you liked? Like, who was it that you really dug into once you kind of got smart to the business and decided wrestling was something you might want to do?
Well, I mean, once I started studying wrestling, I was watching a lot of, hate to say it, but Benoit was one of them. Dean Malenko was another one. I remember I borrowed a Best of Ultimo Dragon tape from you at one point, and there was a match between him and Dean Malenko where they were doing nothing, but it was everything. And right. they're known for their crazy high spots, but the stuff that they were just staying still, it was just captivating. Like the way they sold, the way they their facial expressions. Benoit used to do this thing where, if he's down selling and the guy would go to pick him up, he would swat them out of the way really fucking hard, to the point where the guy going to pick him up, he looked like he didn't know that was coming. And that just made things look so real to me. Just those little things, like the in-between the moves. You watch wrestling nowadays, so many times everyone looks like they're grocery list shopping. Like, okay, this move, this move, this move, this move, this move. But they ain't worried about the registering. They're not worried about the selling. They're not worried about the in-between. And I miss that shit, because that's where the storytelling comes in, and that's where a match really clicks as an older guy for me. Otherwise, I'd be all over the high spot stuff too.
That it's funny you mentioned one of the little things. Like, one of the coolest little things I remember seeing in kind of recent history I believe it was Walter, and he was wrestling. Oh my God, why can't I think of the guy's name? The Japanese wrestler, the Time Splitter.
Oh, Kushida.
Yeah, Kushida, right? And Kushida went to do a springboard or something, and he kind of just stumbled and tripped off the ropes and landed on his feet. And Walter just immediately, without hesitation, just picked up his big boot and kicked the fuck out of Kushida and killed him. And he dead sold it, fell out through the ropes and everything. And it was like one of those things where it was a botched spot, but Walter reacted so quickly, and Kushida sold the shit out of it, and it really made the match like just that. It's like and when you can have a botched spot turned into magic like that, that's when you know we're talking about like the elite of the elite. And it's pretty. I'm so glad you talk about the little things, because a lot of that does get lost in today's professional wrestling.
Like the only thing I felt like I was good at was the little things, because I couldn't keep up with all of the, the Eli Everflies of the world when I was doing my thing recently and a few years ago, because all these guys, Teddy Hart was on a show, and they were just doing these crazy just spike DDTs, everything that I'm not doing or won't take. And so I just kind of focus on the little things, drawing the crowd in, telling the story, that's what I like to do. Again, I walk away without a scratch on me, but the fans, whatever crowd that's out there remembers, because I feel like they're more drawn into those things rather than moves. Only lasts that long, exactly that long is then the move's forgotten. Everybody remembers "I'm sorry, I love you." They don't really remember any of the moves in the match, just those moments.
Yeah, one of my favorite stories about that match was they were talking about that was a different match. Never mind. But since we bring up Shawn Michaels and his greatness, the finish of, I think it was the first Taker Shawn match. Shawn went to do like a springboard moonsault or a moonsault out of the corner, and the idea was for Taker to catch him and hit him with the tombstone, and that was the finish, right? And they were kind of practicing it, and and practicing, and they couldn't get it, and like they came up with a plan B just in case they botched it, right? And this was the referee from that match, Marty Elias, I heard him telling this story. So like they had practiced this, dozens of times, and they just couldn't get it. And they still went with it because, it's Taker and Shawn. They said, if this will be amazing if we hit it. If we botch it, we've got a backup plan. It'll be fine. We can recover. No big deal. And right before the match happened, Marty goes up to Shawn. He's like, "You got that plan B ready?" And Shawn just looks at him and goes, "We're not going to need a fucking plan B, bro." It's like he went from that moment for days watching them practice and Shawn doubting himself, and when it was bell time, he was like, "I'm the fucking Heartbreak Kid, bro. We're getting this shit perfect. There's not gonna be any fucking flubs. This is gonna be great." So, man, the little moments, the little things like that, the little stories. Oh man, I just love wrestling, man. I just wish it was like it was in the glory of our childhood when the storytelling was the focus and not the stuff. So that brings us to your wrestling career. I know you have a few highlights in there. One specifically I would like to touch on because the man is one of my favorite wrestlers in the history of ever, Christopher Daniels. You got to wrestle the man, Christopher Daniels. Why don't you tell the fans about that experience?
Well, I'll tell them. So, I Young Bucks through MySpace. Matt Jackson was posting videos of himself on MySpace. At the time, he was Mr. Instant Replay, and he was doing a lot of crazy stuff. And then all of a sudden, I found out that him and his brother and a handful of friends book, their own territory rather in Victorville called HRW Wrestling. So I sent them a couple pictures, showed up to a show, and I was booked. Got to wrestle a few matches with them. They seemed to like me for it was funny because I wasn't expecting them because of how they work to like me. I felt like they were like past like the heavyweights are boring and shit like that. But when you look around, there ain't nobody like me on this roster. So that's probably why they took to me. So long story short, had a few matches. Then all of a sudden I got to wrestle. I got to team up with Dawson, who became one of the Cutler brothers. He was Diablo at the time. So we tagged together and we faced Nick Jackson and Christopher Daniels. And that was an experience for sure because I got to pick his brain. He even told me that he wanted to be in the ring mostly with me and let him and Dustin and let Nick and Dustin do all their spots, but he wanted to like tell stories with me. That is for the life of me. I wish I had that full match on tape. That is like the one that got away. But the only thing that's, available is highlights on YouTube. And, I'll take it. That's the only memory I got of it. But, cool experience. Awesome dude. And the fact that I got to wrestle him in like, the peak of his TNA run. Like, he was the Fallen Angel. He had his X Division title with him. We got to look at it. It was pretty sweet. And then, it was a fun match. I did my best. This was the first wave of my wrestling career, which was like the 500-pound, 400-pound days.
Yes.
So that was my first wave, and I got to accomplish that. So that was pretty fun. He ain't the only, I think that was like my biggest claim to fame as far as wrestling at that time, probably ever really. Not really much to say about that. Awesome experience. Glad I got to experience it. Never thought I was going to reach that, considering I went into wrestling just like, oh, this will be a fun hobby. And then I took it serious for a bit.
All right.
Silence.
Yeah, well, Ron cut out there a little bit on the end, a little bit of technical difficulties, but that's all right.
Oh, no,
So you, as well as I, went through a little bit of a transformation there. You led the way, with the example for me, and after seeing your results in your weight loss journey, I decided to make the same decision. And you lost a whole obese human, right? So you lost like 300-ish pounds. And so much like me, we both had our initial wrestling run and then got grossly fat. And then we had weight loss surgeries, and you lost a 300-pound human being, and I lost over 100 pounds as well. And then we both kind of ventured back into the wrestling business, starting out as a tag team. And I hurt my knee, and you ventured off on your own and had a great run there and won a couple of regional titles, so to speak. What were the differences between your first run and your second run, the most notably for you? In-ring style, just your mindset, everything. What were the major differences?
Just being smarter and like knowing how to get booked was one, because I would just do the whole show up and hope for the best, in my first wave of wrestling. But then again, I was just like, no, I'm gonna put together a good package and send it to people. If they like what they see, book me. I'm not just gonna show up and be a number. I'll show you what you can have, and you tell me if you want it. Like, and I know that sounds arrogant, but you got to kind of have that. You can't just be like, yes, sir, no, sir, take my hot dog, take my handshake, and be on my way. I'll see you at the next one, hopefully. I just stopped thinking that way. I just, just kind of acted like I was the shit. And it kind of worked. And, but as far as physically, everything that I wanted to do when you were trying to smarten me up on just wrestling as a heavyweight, I felt like I got to do a lot more of. That was fun. I got to go in there with SoCal Crazy and just, I felt like we tore the house down and the crowd was just eating it up. And like, he was calling all the spots, and I'm lighter, but I'm definitely still a big guy. And he's calling all these spots. And as I'm reading, I was like, you see me, right? And and he's like, no, we'll be fine. It'll be cool. And we did it. It went off without a hitch. And that was a good time. So yeah, just my wind was better. My flexibility was better. My agility was better. You know, I went to the second rope a little more. I got off my feet a lot more. I bumped my ass off for people. That was when people. Another thing, people wanted to work with me. Like that was another thing. Like even the guys that just want to go out there and tear the house down with their spotty friends felt like they can do so with me too. And I felt that was, you know, even though that's not my cup of tea, that kind of what's the word? You know, trust from them, even if that's not my cup of tea, was still humbling and fun to do. I got to wrestle with Aaron Aguilera. He's a gem.
Was that said sarcastically?
Oh, it was sarcasm. I mean, nice enough guy, but you know, he feels like he's still hard. He at the time, this was like 2017, and he still felt like he was a hardcore kid of 2004. So, but you know, to each their own. So that was fun. We'll get into that story some other day. That'll be a fun one to tell. I won't get into too much of it now. But
foreshadowing.
That's how we bring the audience into later episodes. But yeah, no, that's basically my experience. I just it felt better. You know, obviously I was trusted with title runs, which, you know, hadn't been the case, you know, during my first wave.
I believe. Did you not hold Bobby's title for a minute?
I was going to, and then
okay, I remember that, and then he got shut down.
It was funny. Always some shit usually happens. You know, I don't give a fuck how long it's been, but WPW, I was on the trajectory of winning their hardcore title from a Chippy Sanchez.
Oh boy!
And then what happened to Chippy Sanchez happened to Chippy Sanchez. That fell through. So that was that. That's something we don't really need to get into until later. Dun, dun, dun.
Something about a statue or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah. someone named Tori. Yeah, that's basically how that went. Oh, I guess you can count. We had me and Kid Carnage had Bill's old IWC titles. We took those off the Platinum Players for a cup of coffee.
Yes, you did. So, you were also on trajectory to be my heavyweight champion had we had another season of UWC, but you know, life moved on. So, at this moment, I would like to bring Charles in. Charles, is there anything you want to ask of Big Ron before we get into the meat and potatoes of today's episode?
Well, yes, I would like to ask Ron. Ron, what is your favorite cup of tea, and what do you like to eat with that cup of tea?
Well, I feel personally insulted because I think Charles is saying that I said not my cup of tea too many times in my rambling.
Winner!
But to your question, I like the slow move tea because, you know, I think that does wonders for your insides.
There you go.
Without being too colorful. The number 2 are legendary.
Right on.
And yeah, I used to like brisk, but then you turn that bitch around and you see all the sugar, and that's not for me.
No.
Shouldn't be for anybody.
No.
But yeah, to answer your very snarky, insulting question, it is a slow move tea.
Oh, all right. So today I would like to discuss, we got to get back into this wrestling stuff. We had some big shows happen, and I'm ignoring Raw and SmackDown for the most part. I watched two separate 5-minute. Yeah, I watched 2 separate 5-minute intervals of the Hell in the Cell abortion of a pay-per-view, and both times I walked away dejected and said I'm not watching any more of this. But I came back later as my middle child, Miss Violet, the scoliosis sister there, is just absolutely in the throes of full wrestling obsession, just like we were when we were kids, and I'm not trying to rain on her parade. So I enjoy the fact that she's so into wrestling, but I watched maybe 5 minutes of the Roman Reigns Hell in a Cell match and saw that he won by choking out his opponent's brother, and I was like, fuck this shit. And then I came back later to watch Randy Orton standing on top of the cage, waiting for Drew McIntyre to climb the cage and waiting for him to get on top and get safe, and then said, all right, let's fight up here, just to watch them climb down the other side of the cage without doing anything of significance on top of the cage, for them to gingerly get into place and to very safely fall through a table in the most contrived, phony, fake bullshit wrestling I've ever seen. And I was like, fuck this shit too. And I walked away and couldn't watch it. So we're going to talk about some great, phenomenal fucking pay-per-view. Well, not even pay-per-view, free TV action, Halloween Havoc. Before we get into the match by match, what did you think of the overall show that was Halloween Havoc, Ronald?
The presentation was really cool. I'm partial to, the Halloween Havoc set from my younger days. I loved how it looked in WCW versus NWO Revenge, the video game. But I thought NXT did a good job on the presentation. Even Shotzi Blackheart up there looking all scary and spinning the wheel looks cool. I'll give her that. I liked that a lot. But yeah, as we break down match by match, segment by segment, we can get into, what we thought of each thing. But as far as once the show started, once I saw everything, how it was presented, I was hooked. I liked what I saw.
Yeah, I had a different adjective to describe the way Shotzi Blackheart looked. It really kind of did it for me. So, yes, more Shotzi Blackheart. Yes, very hard perspective, maybe, yes. Especially in the second outfit, that was very much form-fitting, and her hair was all blown out and super green, which green is my color. So I very much enjoyed the Shotzi Blackheart segments, and her outfits were a fantastic addition to the show. But we'll just get right to it. The first match, I don't remember everything, and I didn't write any shit down, so you guys are gonna have to help me put this match together, or this card together. But the first match was the championship featuring my brother-in-law, the Johnny Gargano, Mr. Wrestling, regaining the North American title, and he wrestled that guy. And
did you really almost forget about what match was the first one?
No, I didn't. I didn't forget what the first match was, but I can't remember what Punishment Martinez's name is now. So,
Damian.
Yeah, Damian Priest. So that was fun. We got a little bit of foreshadowing in this match, as we got some help from a masked individual who helped Johnny regain the North American title, and same said masked individual would make another appearance later on. So maybe some foreshadowing to some helpers for the Gargano way, some followers of the Gargano way possibly to come. I'm interested. I'm excited. But what did you think about this match, Ronald?
Oh, the match was solid. I felt like they told a good story. There is a size difference, but I felt like they made it work to their advantage. I don't think it's unbelievable to see Johnny, go head to head with Damian Priest. And, Lord knows, they made Damian Priest look strong anyway, because Johnny took the chicken shit heel route anyway. So I thought the story was told well. I think Damian Priest is like, he's main roster material, but God, I don't want that, because his presentation is so good. And I just, you know how it is. Keith Lee was doing really well, but look what's happening now.
Well, yeah, and that's why I haven't been following Keith Lee since like maybe his first match, but like he went to the main roster and they put him right over on Randy Orton right away and like gave him what seemed like was going to be a monster push, and now I think he's part of that Retribution group and he's back down in the middle somewhere.
No, he's not part of the Retribution group, but he's doing next to nothing, that's for sure.
He's not one of the guys wearing a mask hiding around backstage? Oh, okay.
No.
I thought he was originally.
It was Dominic Dijakovic you're thinking of.
No, I know Dijakovic, but I thought the first time they had Invaders that Keith Lee and his girlfriend and all those people were part of one of the first weeks I
She
saw.
was.
Said, "Fuck this! I'm done with this shit."
But I think if you're talking about the other big African American gentleman, that is Dio Madden.
Yeah, the
Oh,
one that
okay.
Lesnar put through the announce table.
Yeah, he's the Raw commentator for again another cup of coffee or a cup of tea, Charles.
Tea.
And but yeah, Damian Priest and Johnny. Yeah, I thought it was great. When the masked character came out, I screamed. Get it? Yeah, I was really happy that that went the way it did because it made me excited for what could have happened later. But I don't think we'll get into that. We'll get into that later. But yeah, it was a good match. I enjoyed I enjoyed the street fight. I enjoyed the finish. It was pretty cool how they. I even yelled in my house. He hit him with the tombstone.
Yes, I thought the finish was cool. I thought breaking the house set, falling, the giant falling through the house to his demise, I thought was really cool. One of the things I really enjoyed about Johnny's kind of heel run here for the last few months is that he really has kind of slowed his matches down significantly and focused more on a storytelling aspect in his matches. When he's just going balls to the wall for 45 minutes with Tommaso or Adam Cole or whoever he's feuding with, having these really, awesome high spot matches. This is just adding another layer to his character and his in-ring performance, and I'm really enjoying it. And so, yeah, this was all good for me. I got to enjoy listening to my daughter scream for 5 minutes when Uncle Johnny won. That's always my favorite part of watching wrestling, is that these little girls over here get crazy and scream and yell, and they're insane fans of wrestling at this point when Uncle Johnny or Aunt Candace are on the TV. But and it's also fun to kind of see who the other people they end up liking, like Little Miss Victoria loves Shotzi Blackheart, even though she cost her Aunt Candace the match later on in this pay-per-view. She's a big fan of Shotzi Blackheart, but it's amazing how quickly they turn on people. I think Violet, even though she's actually met and spent time with Tegan Nox, she would punch her in the face for her interfering in Candace's business. So it's a lot of fun. So what happened next? What was the second match on this card? Some kind of thing with some guys that did stuff.
You're up, Charles.
Way to go, guys. We're on this. Charles is like, I don't know. I don't remember.
I had it up.
Yeah, someone should have done their hosting duties and looked up results.
Whoa.
I'm talking about myself.
Okay,
I'm talking about myself.
Hey, listen.
I just kind of flew into this half cocked. Oh yeah, Halloween. Oh, Havoc results 2020. There it is.
Was it Dakota Kai and Ember Moon?
Oh, look at that.
This is riveting.
Oh, the Pat McAfee interview. So just as a general bigger discussion, how do you feel about Pat McAfee there, Ron?
Great promo. When he's walked through a match, he does well, because him and Adam Cole, I was into, like start to finish. And just a guy, he's one of those guys that just gets it to me, because he's already doing the in-betweens. He's doing the little things. He's not worrying about what his moves are or whatever. Everyone's getting off watching him be a dick.
Yes.
And that's what's important. Draw the hatred in and then work on your moves. So, yes, I am all about Pat McAfee. I think this is a great opportunity for Birch and Lorcan, because they've spent way too much time just having good matches and not not doing anything meaningful.
Well, no, they did a lot of meaningful things. They made other tag teams look good for the last year and a half. Like, they've literally just done jobs and been like, man, that match was great. Oh, those guys lost again. Cool for them. I think the biggest thing that stood out to me in this segment was that Pete Dunne is jacked. That dude came out like, holy balls, this dude's just been in a gym for the last 8 months while he's been quarantining. And Jesus Christ, he's jacked.
Good for him. I'm stoked that he looks the way he looks. You know, I was a little partial to his old, physique just because I'm a big Fit Finlay, William Regal fan, and he kind of had that body going for him, and it just he looked real believable with his striking and bending of the fingers and shit like that. But no, dude looks amazing. He's like, I looked at his arm, I was like, is that even legal? Holy shit!
Right,
like, it's a complete different person.
Okay, so according to this, the next thing that happened was Santos Escobar versus Jake Atlas.
Yes.
And I didn't pay attention to this match, so I have no opinion.
He had a tribute to Rey Mysterio's outfit.
Yes, he did. He did. I did. Now that you mentioned it, I do remember. This was like fine, cruiserweight guys that I don't care about action there, and they had a match, and there was a winner, and it was like, all right, on to the next thing. It was like a perfect popcorn match in the middle of the show.
Out of all the things I've seen, that was one of them.
They didn't give enough time for that storyline to build. I mean, they did it, but it was the mediocre build that they should have given him a push a little bit better with it.
All right. So next up, Jesus Christ, was the first installment of the Dexter Lumis, Cameron Grimes, Haunted House of Terror match.
Cinematic.
Cole,
yes, the cinematic thing.
We're both big fans of the show I'm about to quote, but I invoked a rule.
Is it a zombie roll? Because I have a zombie roll now.
You've seen many of texts of mine, and I've enjoyed this guy's work as a regular person. But when I see Dexter Lumis, I just the fast forward button becomes a magnet to my fingers.
The Jeff Jarrett button.
Yeah, I just can't. Like his Stranger Things music, his look, the whole gimmick, the sliding around. It's not for me. It really isn't for me. But I will say Cameron Grimes is for me. I enjoy watching him work. He's a slimy douchebag. There's no one that looks like him. Just going for that slimy down south, just rugged douchebag. That's not even supposed to be tough. He's just a chicken shit. And I think he did a good job because I did watch this.
I do too.
I watched a big portion of it until it got a little silly. But Cameron Grimes did what he could with this and sold it like sold it like he was scared shitless. A little campy at times, but I think Cameron Grimes did his part for what this was.
Yeah, Cameron Grimes this was definitely the Cameron Grimes show because, Dexter Lumis does nothing. And I think if you're going to do this is the only way you could have done it. Because I don't think anyone else on this roster would have been nearly as entertaining as Cameron Grimes. My problem with Cameron Grimes, and I don't know if this is a good or a bad thing, but I just want to punch him in his fucking face every time I see him. Like, he doesn't have to say anything. He doesn't have to do anything. I just see him like, God, I want to punch the guy in his fucking face.
So let me stop you right there. So you're a guy that is in the business. You're a guy that's a smart, wrestling fan. You've been in the business. You promoted, and you've done all this stuff in wrestling, and you kind of critique it. So knowing all that, and for someone in the business to get under your skin like that, just by the sight of them, I applaud. Like that.
Right.
You're feeling that way. What do you think he's doing to the casual fan?
Yeah, and so he's kind of won me over because I saw him first in Impact and under his old name, and I was just like, I'm watching him, and they were pushing him more, I don't want to say as a baby face, but more as kind of just a less personality and pushing him like he was more of a top guy. And I just didn't see it. I didn't get it. I thought it was fucking stupid. And now his personality's coming out. We're seeing all that, and I'm enjoying it a lot more. But I don't think his in-ring work is special. Like, I think he's just okay, but the personality he's showing is reaching a level of special, and I'm pretty excited for it. And he's won me over officially. I don't want to say this was the match, but the little things that he did in this, this cinematic adventure where he stopped at the shower and got the creepy look on his face, like, hey, all right. Shocked that they did that because, like, you're not allowed to be attracted to females anymore in 2020. So like, I thought it was funny that they did that, and then of course exactly what we knew was going to happen happened. It it was the ring, and I just and so when he ran away, I was like, okay, and when it said to be continued, I was like, fuck.
Yeah. Piggybacking to what you're saying about Cameron Grimes, the whole, like, he's not special in the ring, and I keep preaching this. You don't have to be yet. As long as you're special at the in-betweens and your character, the rest the wrestling will come later. Put that bait on the fishing hook and draw them in first, then work on your high spots. Work on your wrestling.
Well, but that's the thing. His ring work isn't bad at all.
Oh,
his ring work's fine, and if you're going to have that much personality, he has more than enough in-ring ability to become, I don't want to say a top heel, but like he could fill that old Kurt Hennig role where he was like the guy before you got to the champion, where he could just kind of be that guy. He's got enough personality. It doesn't matter if he loses, but he could still win, and he can do some of the chicken shit stuff and get away with it. Like he's one of those guys. I feel like he's never going to be a top guy, but he's definitely a guy you can have in the upper half of your roster and your card somewhere to make the next guy. And losing isn't going to hurt him any. So I like Cameron Grimes. He's won me over. I'm good with it. Yeah. So next,
Raquel and
our
Rhea
girl.
Ripley.
Yes. I have I have it up now, Charles. Thank you for chipping in and helping out. I appreciate you.
Leading a horse to water.
Yes, the sly fuck you smile you just got on your face. Yes, our girl, Ron and my girl. This is one of the girls we agree on. Rhea Ripley versus Raquel Gonzalez. Now, for me, I thought Raquel is very, very green. She's very new to the business. She's only been around for a couple years. She's one of the kind of second generation experiments there where she didn't do indies, or she didn't do a lot of indies if she did do indies, and she went straight to the big time, and she's working her way up. She is in incredible shape from what she started at, and I thought she made a good showing for herself here. And I think as they continue to use her in this kind of way where they treat her as kind of a monster heel and she doesn't do too much stuff, that they can bring her along slowly, and she's going to be a nice addition to the roster long term. But I also like that Rhea Ripley is kind of taking a little bit of a back seat because she doesn't really need the title. I think she's reached a level in NXT where she is a top guy, so to speak. And I'm looking forward to maybe her fighting whoever the next champion is. I don't know who that could be, but maybe later on down the road, a little dream match for you and me, Ronald. What did you think of Rhea Ripley and Raquel Gonzalez?
For me, this match was really, really good. As far as the only wrestling match on the show, as far as like
that's true.
Being the match of the night for me was this match, as far as a wrestling match, because obviously the matches of the night could be decided between the first match and the main event. But
there's no question what the match of the night was. Yeah. Come on, bro.
To be fair, those matches were drenched in gimmicks. But as far as like the pure wrestling match, this shit drew me in so hard. It was snug. It was brutal for there was two big women instead of like Rhea working down to a smaller lady, or a lady working up to Rhea. It was even. Rhea was leading the match the whole time, but I thought both of them did a great job drawing you in with good false finishes, not just false finishes for the sake of having them. Rhea's just a freaking action figure. She doesn't even need to do anything. She just looks like a star. And that's pretty much my feelings on her, among other things. This. And plus, I've said this before, but yeah, as far as like the wrestling match, I felt like that was my favorite of the night. They just did a really good job. And yeah, Rhea's another one of those girls that, Vince would bring up, but I don't want her to go.
Right, because she's obviously like I see her being a WrestleMania main event type person. Like she's one of those people that could be in the mix for being the top draw in the business, male or female, period, because she's such a star. I thought she proved it big time at WrestleMania this year, where her and Charlotte completely stole the show.
I agree. As far as in ring, that was the best thing on the card.
Yeah.
Ring.
But so after this match, we got the thrilling and exciting conclusion to the Dexter Loomis bullshit. And at the point when we had zombies crawling backwards in the ring for like 5 minutes, I was just going like, what the fuck? Like, what the actual fuck? I have had this fear that since the Undertaker and AJ thing went so well at WrestleMania, that this cinematic bullshit was going to be a mainstay in wrestling, and I knew the first couple were good. Like the rest of the ones at Mania were pretty good. I thought the Orton Edge one was way too dramatic and drawn out and bullshit, but it was still good. But this was what I was afraid of. This campy, silly bullshit that just, oh man, I didn't like what now? Sorry, you broke up a little bit.
You didn't like Money in the Bank?
I did not like Money in the Bank either. I believe I buried that hard on the podcast, and so I'm going to go ahead and ask Charles to get out of his phone for a second and engage in some conversation. To this point in the show, Charles, what did you think of Halloween Havoc?
Oh, I can talk now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, please talk. I'm asking you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Halloween Havoc was set up really well. What? Cup of tea? Halloween Havoc was set up pretty well. The Rhea Ripley Rodriguez one, that was good. That stays in my mind. Obviously, without having bias, because a certain family member is related to some other family member that was wrestling on the show. That one with Candice was very well done. I'm glad that was the ending. Johnny's one was really well. All around, I'd have to give it a 9.5 because there was just some things that were a little bit off because it looked more like Child's Play, and I'm not talking about the movie. But yeah, I mean, it was well done. I mean, it was put together to, entertain and have a big following to watch. But there was just certain things that, once again, like I've always said, in anything that they've even tried to do a sequel or whatever, don't break what's not broken, or don't fix what's not broken. And they could have just had the set. Now, I am a huge fan of pumpkins, and I have beef with my brother-in-law. Whether that, well, actually, let's just be honest.
Well, I mean, he was the Pumpkin King, so
right. But I mean, I my birthday's October 1st, so I'm the Pumpkin King. So, let's just be honest. That pumpkin needed to die. That was the freaking ridiculous pumpkin that there was known to man, and it was well done. It was put together. So I gotta give it that.
Yeah, I feel like they intentionally went with the most ridiculous pumpkin they could find so that when they cut it, it wasn't going to get shit on. Like, if they would have had a badass pumpkin and Johnny stabbed it to death, he would have got so much more heat than cutting up
that
the
would have been
stupid
great,
pumpkin.
though. The heat would have been great. I should have. The point is I shouldn't have to cheer for him for doing that. I should be booing him, hating him.
What they should have done is had a pumpkin mascot and have Johnny stab that.
That would have been amazing. And then, we forgot to talk about him super kicking a skeleton that jumped out of a coffin at him.
No, let me talk about that one. That one was freaking. I was drinking a soda. So tell your brother-in-law he owes me a pop. Because when he kicked that skeleton and I saw it and I had to repeat it, that liquid came out of my mouth and I had to clean up the mess because that was the most hilarious thing that I've seen someone do on a wrestling show that was actually that didn't look like shit. So it was freaking awesome, man. That was hilarious. Just out of the blue. Super kicks a freaking skeleton. That was perfect.
Yeah, I did. I enjoyed the haha. I'm enjoying Johnny's funny haha moments. Like, I think you're doing it in a way where he's obviously being a ridiculous human right now, and so that's fun. But I feel like we're laughing with him, not laughing at him at this point, and so
Right.
it's good. It's all good fun.
Done well, and it wasn't shit.
Yeah, it's not eye roll material. It's actually funny.
I do like how they perfectly set it up, though. It was like all week and weeks before that he was talking about how he hates wheels, but then a wheel helped him win that match. And so then he posts about, like, wheels are friends right now. So everything all around was put together very well in that match because it told the story. Everything aligned perfectly. So, like, all around, like I said, 9.5 for Halloween Havoc.
So I would just like to point out here before we talk about this last match that along with my results here that I found, WWE's Twitter, official WWE Twitter, their tweet to describe this match was Candice LeRae. That's it. That's the tweet. Because I feel like this was finally the moment when Candice, my sister, Candice LeRae, got to show the world at large, the wrestling universe, why it is that she was such a big deal on the independents, why it is that she's the toughest female in professional wrestling, why it is that every legend, old school guy in the history of the world has gone out of their way, including my favorite wrestler of all the times, Bret the Hitman Hart, to go speak to her after her match and tell her how fantastic she was and give her pointers and try to help her out. So,
if you don't mind me interrupting here, we can also add Al Snow, though, because Al Snow praised your sister
Al Snow
very
put
well
her over on our podcast.
Out of everybody that he's talked to, that he's given advice, she is the only one he said that actually gets it and actually did it.
Yes, so that started all the way back when we first were in the business. Lanny Poffo was on a show that we did. Probably the first time in life I thought Ron might actually physically harm me. But that's another story for another day.
I'm booking it.
Yeah, the first time I ever saw Ron legit mad.
Yeah, all I can say is poor Warren.
So, but yeah, I mean, Lanny took to my sister right away, got her booked, helped her out. He's stayed in contact with her all these years later. But yeah, this match for me was like putting her stamp on the wrestling business, saying, hey guys, this is what I can do. This is me. No other female's going to do this shit like I just did, without breaking their faces like Mia Yim or whoever else. And this was just my favorite match of the night. Obviously one of my favorite matches of the year. I very much loved this. I'm so happy for my sister that she got to put this out in the universe at large. Ronald, what did you think of Candice LeRae versus Io Shirai?
I mean, what else can you say? It was as close to a masterpiece as you can for a match of this kind between two ladies. between two superstars, don't even need to bring gender into this. I will say that I was super concerned with that last bump through the ladder because, I felt like, what you should have done was go for a clean side bump, but man, she went right on her knees, and I was so scared when that happened.
Well, she took it ass first, which was good, but she did smash her elbow, and she had a very nice gash, which I got a nice picture of. She definitely busted her elbow on the big bump, but I loved all the little things. Right, this is where she took the big brain buster on the open chair, and she died. She didn't climb the ladder. She had to be picked up and put on top of the ladder where she finally came to, and just her selling, just from anyone in the business. Like, I'm not being biased here. I watch these matches and nobody sells like Candice LeRae. There's not very many people in the business that take their time to really sell and tell the stories in all of their matches, whatever it is. And it's just after week after week after week, she gives whoever her opponent is the best match of their career, at least their best TV match possible. And I'm just so glad this happened. I hope this isn't the end of her chances of title opportunities. I hope that maybe we find out who these masked people are going forward, and maybe they've got some helpers and some followers of the Gargano way, and I'm hoping for big things. So yeah, that's going to do it for Halloween Havoc. Either of you guys have any closing thoughts on the Halloween Havoc?
Well, just to piggyback on your closing statement with that match was just, I'm glad this is happening for Candice. I for Johnny too, really, because, I feel like these characters needed to go this way, just because, you can only do the hooray, let's go Johnny, hooray, let's go Candice for so long. You could, you'll be a bigger babyface judged by how good of a heel you are. And then when that turn finally happens, then you're a monster babyface. I feel like that's when a babyface is really, hits its peak, is when you put in the work as a dominant heel and then make that change. And I just love where they're going with this. People say they're annoying. That's the gimmick. They're the annoying couple next door with the matching outfits. They're the couple that you hate to look at next door. Like, look at these fuckers. Like, they're those people. Like Christmas Vacation, when their neighbors come out and they talk shit about Clark. That's the audience that's supposed to hate Candice and Johnny. That's really what they're going for. They're just the annoying couple next door, and I feel like they're doing a great job with it. Johnny's on another level as far as his promos go, because bless his heart, but he cut good babyface promos, but they were just babyface promos. But his heel stuff, the air kicking the wheel on the Gargano dinner at the Gargano segment, I laughed my ass off. He's becoming just an annoying, insecure douchebag, and I feel like that's what the character needs. And Candice, I like the way they're portraying her too, because she looks like she has the house in order.
Yes,
I love that appeal of it. That he's gone on record on TV and on interviews saying that she's his favorite wrestler. So they played that on the show too. So I think the sky's the limit for them, and I don't think it's going to be over as far as her title chase, not by a long shot, because you can't have this prophecy about they're going to be the power couple and not follow through with both titles in hand.
Well, I hope so. I hope that's the case, and I'm hoping for some big WrestleMania moments this year, whether it be WrestleMania's takeover or whatever, however it plays out this year. I'm hoping that my family's a big part of it. So
I'm a huge fan of old school rivals. Old school way it's done, and I know that less is more, so they didn't need to have the match any longer than what it is. But if they don't do a round 3 and they don't give her the title with Io Shirai, I think it's a lost opportunity for them, because that would be like the old school way of boosting up. That brings the same example as Macho Man versus DDP, Macho Man versus Steamboat, those old school rival deep 3 match bouts that really makes professional wrestling what professional wrestling is and what's great. So that's what I'm hoping. I already knew, and you know how many times, Cole, that I've texted you saying how many great things about their promos and how they should have done this a long time ago. I just hope that they build on this and they keep doing it and they do it right, because there's nobody that's going to outbeat those two matches that both Io Shirai and Candice has had.
Yeah, man. Well, all three of them really. I mean, you put the three matches they've had together, and they tore the house down every time. I know behind the scenes that Candice is Io's absolute favorite person to work with in the world. So I bet that's a running theme in that locker room, if I had to guess. But I mean, Ron and I both worked with Candice, so we know. We know how easy it is to work with her.
Yeah, super simple.
So before we go, I just want to talk about something that Ron texted me immediately after it happened and was like, bro, you got to see this shit. We are talking about the debonair dinner scene, whatever, with Chris Jericho.
For a proper introduction. La dinner, debonair.
Yes. So this was fun for me. For a couple of reasons. One, being a world champion singer myself, I was very much impressed by MJF's singing chops. He has that kind of a professional wrestler, even though I know he has some opera training in his background and whatnot, as we all saw his Rosie O'Donnell appearance and things like that. But
I post that quite frequently.
This is one of those things where it's like, I should be hating this. This should piss me off. I should be so mad that this is what's happening on TV, but I loved every minute of this. I laughed my ass off. I enjoyed Le Dîner Debonair. What were your feelings, Ron, watching this?
From the very moment, I was like, the fuck is this? But in the best way. Like, I kept questioning what my eyes were processing. And I was like, where's this going? And I was like, oh, it's going nowhere. This is just it. This is freaking awesome. Like, what's the word the cheesy banter of the how the steak's being cooked and from there, just how they break out into song. I was dying laughing. And to the haters for this segment, I have to say this. I saw Mae Young give birth to a hand. I saw Pat Patterson have a streak on his underwear. I saw Harvey Whippleman and Howard Finkel have a tuxedo match. And that got no backlash whatsoever. Why is this awesome display of musical comedic greatness getting so much hate?
Because it's trendy, and being a troll is trendy.
For the life of me, I don't understand why they don't like this. I will say I enjoyed watching Jericho get blown up when they had that dialogue just before the wrap of the show. He looked dead.
Oh,
He looked like our match on the dance floor. He was just ready to go home.
This segment reminded me of This Is Your Life, where everybody said what the fuck this was, and then it's been a repeated memory, and it's like one of those iconic movies, those cult classic type movies. Like, that's the cult classic pro wrestling thing. This is on top of that, and like, the haters can hate, but this is the reaction they wanted to get. You're still talking about it. Mm-hmm. You're bitching, you're still talking about it. You get into professional wrestling, from what I heard from Eugene, you want to make moments. This made a moment that is going to have people talking, and that's what it is. I mean, their segment, I looked at the stats, their segment was higher rated than most of the other two brands' primetime shows that they have on Monday and Friday with that segment part. So they're doing something right.
Well, especially from a show from a company that's not really known for their segments. You know, that their in-ring stuff is going to be what sells. But you got to have the segments that, just everyone talks shit on the segments on Raw and SmackDown because none of them are good. That's why everyone segments. But if you have good segments, then it's good. have the segments as long as you're doing them right. But no, as far as AEW goes, their segments haven't been all that great. They'll have the occasional interview backstage or the occasional sit down, but this was like a massive step up as far as like backstage entertainment goes, and I was a big fan. Don't do it again for quite a while, or don't do it ever. Just let us absorb this for a couple years, because I think that's you need to let something like this breathe. Otherwise, you don't want to stale something so great. In my view,
you've seen what happened the recent one. They really, it wasn't up to the par to what that one was before, so it didn't do as well. But they hit the key in the production of the video looking different. The actual visual of it was well done, because now you made it look different than what their regular cameras were. You made it more like a late night Tonight Show, type of theme. So I mean, all around it was done perfectly. I figured I was going to get a message from Cole going, "What the fuck is this shit?" Kind of pulling a corny out, and I didn't get it. So I was really surprised, and I'm really surprised to hear what you said just a little bit ago, Cole. I thought you would have hated the shit out of it. I really did.
I kind of wanted to, but at the same time, it's just like, it's one of those things where it's like, it wasn't like shitty wrestling bullshit. Like, it wasn't wrestle crap. It wasn't like one of those things where you roll your eyes out. It was funny and entertaining. It was shocking. It was not what you would expect at all on any wrestling show ever. And so I think the novelty of it more than anything was good. I agree with Ron. If they do this shit again, then it's garbage. But like, if that's the only time they ever do a dinner dance, an old school tap dancing fucking like show tunes fucking type segment, I'm good with it. But different, there's nothing wrong with different. Different's good.
And plus, if you want to get down to it, you're kind of supposed to hate this. Us smart fans like it because we like the theatrics. Like, oh, I see what they're doing. That's funny that they went there. But to the casual fan, this is a heel versus heel angle. And so what better way to do something this cheesy to piss off that fan? And I think, in that regard, it's done its job. And that's why I love it more, because a lot of the hate that I'm seeing is from know-nothings. And they're just kind of commenting on what they see. Like, what the hell is this? I hate these guys. Why would they do this? Good. You're not supposed to like this. It's cheesy and stupid. And then
but I didn't get the idea from anyone I've talked, other than obviously Jim Cornette fucking hated it. But like everyone else, everyone else, I didn't get the go away heat feeling with the reaction from, like, people were like, this was obnoxious. Why would they do this? Maybe a little bit, but it wasn't like, I'm never going to watch this bullshit again kind of a reaction for me. It's not like Katie Vick, like you talked about, Katie Vick and Mark Henry and shit. Like, I stopped watching wrestling at that point. Like, that was the middle of my height. I was like, I'm 14, 15 years old, like in the height of my wrestling fandom, and I couldn't take that shit. And I stopped watching Raw for a while. And there was like a 2 or 3 year period there where I was like, I still followed it. I watched all the pay-per-views, but I wasn't like hardcore as I was like 92, 93, 94. And then they got me back once WCW closed, and basically they assembled the greatest roster in the history of ever. Jericho and The Rock and Austin and Angle and Brock Lesnar, and like just the list of talent they had in that run in the early 2000s was just insane. And I think we're getting to a point where wrestling kind of feels like that again, where there's all these top guys who like, because WWE for a long period there after that stretch where they got all the WCW guys, they weren't signing professional wrestlers anymore. They were looking for bodybuilders and athletes, and that's it. And so everybody that came up was either a football player or an ex-amateur wrestler, or they were just a big guy like the Great Khali, or, they were still doing that bullshit. But like, we still got some great guys like Shelton Benjamin, and Brock were the guys the standouts that set the mold. But there was a long stretch where WWE didn't create any new stars and they didn't have any big names coming in because they weren't signing indie guys. And now we've reached a point where they signed up all the guys that have been busting their ass for the last 10 to 15 years on the indies, who have been main eventers, have gone to Japan, have gone to Mexico, have been big in Canada. And now we've got that point. I mean, that's what happened in 84, 85. They signed up all the main eventers from all the territories and they stacked a roster and it blew up. And then it went through a little bit of a lull. And then WCW had the NWO, and then Rock and Austin got hot, Mick Foley got hot, Triple H, was there, he existed.
We'll just say DX got hot.
Yeah, but exactly, DX got hot, and Hunter just kind of carried that, just piggybacked off of Shawn for the next 10 years, and then
he wasn't the only one he piggybacked on for the next,
Well, yeah, then there was just a long time. There was like a 10-year period where there weren't any new big guys, and then CM Punk kind of broke through, and then Daniel Bryan broke through, and now there's just been this massive run for the last few years of independent talent and Japanese wrestlers, and the internet has really helped make these guys big stars, and so now you're looking at the roster at WWE and NXT is just insanely stacked. And AEW is not too bad off. I think their roster is shaped up to be better than we thought it was. They've done a pretty good job of turning some WWE cast-offs into top guys. And I really like where wrestling's at. And I'm just excited for the next 5 years of wrestling. I don't know about you guys.
Yeah, I would like for things to open up so we can get back to really good wrestling. Right. But that's down the road. I'm told. Man, I was ready to get those WrestleMania tickets. but yeah, no, I'm excited. I'm excited to talk more about what's coming up in the future. We'll get into a lot more things regarding how people consume wrestling nowadays. Is also a big factor in in the wrestling business nowadays because so many people are watching it on the internet.
Right. So that did remind me of one thing because we talked about fantasy booking. There was an idea that Charles and I kicked around a little bit ago when we were just kind of talking about things. I want to get your idea on this. We can fantasy book this a little bit. We talked about WCW when it closed down, when Turner wanted out of it. But what if Eric Bischoff got the money together and he was able to buy WCW, and maybe he took half of the ECW roster? What would that have looked like? What could they have done to make that good with full control and no interference? So I think that would be something that would be fun to explore for us in a fantasy booking type atmosphere.
You remember that docu-series that they had where they showed what really was happening in the background, where they were going to try to revamp it, have it in Vegas, so where it was kind of like what NWA or what IE Lucha Underground ended up being. How they had it kind of in a small studio setting, but it had dramatic storylines and all that. That's what his plan was, but it ended up falling through, and then they went through, Vince got it. So that's where I came up with the idea. Is well, that would be pretty interesting because they still had the full contracts of those bigger guys that sat home.
Yeah, no, that would be fun one for sure. I'd be down to get into that.
Sweet. So our audience, you got that to look forward to this weekend. Ron and I will actually be taking in together AEW's pay-per-view. So we will talk about that next week on the pod. Thank you for joining the team, Ronald. We're excited to have you. And Charles, as always, thank you for keeping us on track and making me do this. And I appreciate this. We got a lot of good things coming. We're revamping. We're getting ready. Charles and I are past some of family situations. I know the podcast has been a little sporadic for the last month or so, but we're getting back on track. We added Ronald to the team, so stay with us, and hopefully we can grow our audience and give you the content that you guys so richly deserve. So with that said, I am your host, Cole Dawson. Thank you, DJ Barbecue Charles. Thank you, Ronald Kilbourn, for being here with us. And we will get back to you next week, ladies and gentlemen. Mwah.
Toodles.
Kota Radio Network is brought to you by Midwest All Pro Wrestling. Go to MidwestAllProWrestling.com and get tickets today. Remedy Brewing Company. It's the cure for what ails you. Jekyll and Hyde Barbecue. Jekyll and Hyde Barbecue makes barbecue so good, it'll put a smile on your face. And Kota Radio Network is powered by KBack.Rock. Rock radio the way rock radio should be. Go to KBackRadio.com and listen today.